Hi, my name's Gaz, the Mini Painting Punk. This is Ronnie, and in this video I'm going to show you the scheme I used to paint the Ulfenwatch from Warhammer Quest Cursed City. I think the Ulfenwatch from Cursed City are probably some of the coolest skeleton miniatures I've seen. I think Games Workshop have really knocked it out of the park with these sculpts. I'm probably going to spend a little bit more time on these than I would in a speed painting video, but it's still a relatively quick and easy paint scheme to get them looking pretty cool and on the table. I like to paint my skeletons in a ghostly green colour scheme. I think this looks quite striking and sets them apart from other skeletons, and it has the added bonus of being really quick and easy to achieve this effect as well. I'm only really going to talk in general colours throughout the video, but if you do want to know exactly which paints and which brands I've used, there'll be a little subtitle down at the bottom here that shows you exactly what I've used at each step of the process. Enjoy! Because of all the tattered flowing robes on these guys, it's easier to separate the model and paint it in two sections. They're just push fit though, so they come apart quite easily and they'll push back together quite easily once that's done as well. Now, it doesn't actually matter that the undercoat spray hasn't caught these areas inside that I'm painting. They're going to be barely visible and so tucked away that they're not going to be somewhere where the paint's going to catch and chip. Started off by painting all the cloth of the jacket in a dark red. Next, I used a really bright yellow green to paint all of the exposed bone on the model. This little spine bit on the inside isn't actually visible on the finished model, but since it was there I decided to paint it anyway. If you don't have a bright yellow green like this, just add in a decent amount of yellow to a light green paint. It'll give you a very similar effect. I then painted the shield and all the hanging bits of mail in a metallic gold paint. Next, I just used some brown paint to paint the wooden handle on the shield. With this bit, it doesn't really matter too much if you get right into the recesses where the handle meets the shield, because we're going to be putting a brown wash over all of this later and that will cover up anything you miss there. Then it was time to do the armour. I wanted these to have black armour similar to the box art. For this, I've used a really opaque black wash, which works a lot like a contrast paint over a grey undercoat, only a lot cheaper. So it pulls in the recesses and just does a little bit of shading for you. You can of course just use good old-fashioned black paint, and if you do that you'll just need to do a little bit of extra highlighting later on. I also used the same wash on his spear and the straps going around the back of his jacket as well.
nearly time to put the model back together, but before I can do that I just need to apply some washes to the colours I've already put down. So I've used a crimson wash on all of the red areas of the jacket, a brown wash on any of the gold or wood areas, and finally I used green wash on all of the bone areas. Now this wash is actually what Citadel calls a technical paint. Now I'm pretty confident that you'll be able to achieve a similar effect just using a green wash. Much like contrast paints, this seems to just be a wash with a little bit of extra pigmentation, so I don't see why another wash wouldn't work just as well. Instead, maybe you'll need to do an extra coat. With that done, he's assembled and we're ready to start picking out some highlights and doing some bits of detail work. First up is the jacket, and we started off with a slightly lighter red, just picking up some of the raised areas and the tips of these nice flowy tattered bits at the bottom. We're making sure there's not a ton of paint on your paintbrush and just picking up some broad highlights of all the raised areas and the tips. I then took a lighter red and just repeated that process again, but just being a lot more selective this time, just getting the very edges and the very tips of any of the sharp raised bits, just with a little paint on the brush. With that step done, all the cloth parts are looking pretty striking. Now, if this was a true speed paint, you could leave him here as a basic minimum tabletop standard, but since this is a really nice model, let's add a little bit more detail to him and do the model some justice while still getting him on the table in a relatively quick time. We'll start by adding a highlight to the armor areas with a dark blue-grey, and just adding this on all the raised bits and all the bits where the armor has corroded as well, and just picking up some highlights there. Doing the same on the shaft of his spear, just with the edge of your brush, just to pick up some of the raised areas where the shaft has corroded a little bit. I then used a light blue to finish highlighting the armor. This may actually seem a little bit light for highlighting black, but if you use it very sparingly just on the uppermost raised edges and all the sharpest parts of the armor, it's actually going to help to really define the armor, so that when your eye looks at it, you're not just going to see a dull flat black surface, and it's really going to help to make the armor pop. The last step is just to take some silver metallic paint and pick out the spear tip, all the metallic parts on that. The Same silver just to dry brush some of the gold bits like the shield and the chainmail. And finally just a light touch of the silver where the bits of armour have corroded as well, just to show some of the exposed metal underneath the paint. So here he is, all finished. You'll notice I haven't done a basing scheme for these. I'm working on a basing scheme for all of my Cursed City miniatures so that they all fit the aesthetic of the streets of Ulfenwatch, which I will probably cover in another video. All in all, not including stopping and starting for filming, this model was about 20 minutes painting time. Here is the same scheme applied to a bunch of different skeleton models. I just wanted to see if the scheme would transfer well so I can use these models together for a Legions of Nagash Warcry warband, and I'm really happy with the results. For such a quick turnaround, I think these are looking pretty great. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. And please consider clicking the notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. That would make my day. If you would like to support the channel, please check out the affiliate links in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I've been Gaz, the Mini Painting Punk, and until next time, goodbye.